And we are live edition of the Rice Report. I am joined by Pimpy from Pimpy's Investment Chat and Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes. This is another episode of the Pimpy and Rice Show. Live streaming right now on Rice TV X, and it will be uploaded to one of Pimpy's channels afterwards. So depending on where you're watching us at, make sure you are subscribed to both of our channels. As well, be sure you're following us both on LBRY and Odyssey, where we have backups of all of our content, and you'll know where you'll be able to find us in case something ever happens to our YouTube channel. Also, make sure you are checking out my Patreon channel, where I post up exclusive content, early access to videos, and it is a way to support the channel directly. And today we are joined once again by Stefan Gleason, the CEO of Money Metals Exchange. And we're going to go ahead and get this show going. I always have to give a shout out to the sponsors of Rice TV X who help make it possible for me to do this full time. Shout out to Monarch Wallet and Presearch, the decentralized search engine. Before we getting the show started, I want to let everybody know that both me and Pimpy, we are partnered up and working with Money Metals Exchange. This means that you can take advantage and get a free half ounce of silver. All you need to do is go to moneymetals.com, be a first time buyer, purchase $100 or more, use the promo code either Rice or Pimpy. You get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel as well. So I am joined by my friend, my homie, my brother from another mother, Mr. Pimpy from Pimpy's Investment Chat. How's it going, my friend?
Hey, it's going groovy. We got an additional person on the show today. Kind of lazy. They'll bug me all day long, but as soon as I sit in this chair, oh man, they know I'm on a video.
Well, they know your attention's not given to them, so it's hilarious how your dogs are, man.
Yeah, I got to do something with this 1970s biker goatee going on here. I have to beat it down a little bit here. It's starting to get crazy.
And today we are joined by Stefan Gleason. He is the CEO of Money Metals Exchange, and this is our third interview with him together. So we're going to have links down below for the playlist that I created and that he has for those previous interviews. Stefan, how's everything going, my friend?
Good. It's been an exciting week, in our industry. It's been an exciting year, or 12 months, and January, and then it keeps getting more exciting.
Yeah, because last year, we talked about it in the previous interviews. Last year, due to COVID and everything happening, there was issues with limited supply of precious metals. And then what we experienced over this weekend, or what you guys experienced and what other precious metals dealers experienced, was not usual. So do you mind kind of giving a perspective just from your end, being a CEO of Money Metals Exchange, a precious metals dealer, of like what you experienced due to this potential silver short squeeze that they were doing?
Yeah, well, it was pretty intense last week. Probably around Wednesday it started, as the GameStop thing kind of toggled to silver, or at least some in that whole community were saying, let's squeeze silver. There's a short interest there. It's the big banks on the other side of the trade. This is an opportunity, and I think a lot of that is true. It hasn't happened yet, but I can tell you the amount of intensity that we have seen of buying, starting on really late Wednesday, then Thursday, doubled from prior peaks last year. And you know how last year was for the industry in terms of the intensity and the new people coming in. And then it doubled again on Friday from Thursday. And then it doubled again on Saturday. And it really got to a point where, we're in we have a website. We're a large national dealer. We have a large inventory. But we also on the weekends you can't hedge. So whenever we're selling, we're buying, and we go into the weekend in anticipation of a certain amount of volume, which we anticipated high volume, of course, because of what was happening on Thursday and Friday. And so we made sure that we were long in terms of our position, so that we could sell through to the weekend and not find ourselves short on Sunday when the market's open and have to cover our positions in a higher price environment. But we got to Saturday night and there'd been so much volume that we just decided, you know what, we better stop taking orders till the market's open on Sunday. And that was a kind of a weird decision to have to make, but it was interesting because as soon as we made that decision, so did our 2 or 3 largest competitors.
I saw that.
Because we were all dealing with the same thing. And, you could go, we have a huge amount of inventory, but, as you're selling a lot over the weekend, what happens is on when the market's open on Sunday morning or Sunday night, we might need to square up our position just because we're not in the business of taking a bunch of price risk on the metals. I mean, obviously we're bullish and we personally have long positions and we're, investors in the market, but we don't make big speculations with our company and our inventory. So, if we were to sell $30-40 million worth of silver on Sunday, which is what it would have been if we had not, stopped taking orders, then that would mean that we would be $30 million short in terms of our heiging by the time the market's open. And if the market's opened, way high as it was expected, and as it did, although it only opened about $2-3 higher. But if we had made that kind of decision to allow ourselves to have to cover, to hedge, to bring us back to par, we could have lost a fair bit of money. So we just decided we better not, so it's interesting because everybody pretty much made the same decision. And then when we turned the website back on for taking orders on Sunday night, we were getting 15-20 orders a minute. We had limited, they were just flying in. We'd limited the, order sizes to a certain minimum of 1,000 and a maximum, I think, of 20,000 or something. And that kept the order volume down a little bit, but down from ridiculously high levels. It would have been way higher. But also, we also need to be cognizant of how quickly we can fulfill these orders and get this stuff out the door. And there's only only so many employees, 30 employees in our fulfillment area. And, we just want to make sure that we don't make commitments we can't fill in a timely fashion. And so it's better just not to take the order in some situations. And that's really something we've rarely ever, really never encountered like this. So, but that said, the intensity has continued in terms of the buying, not quite at that level. Obviously, it was huge, unbelievably. And in fact, if you look at Google search trends for buy silver, you can see the interest in any particular term at any given time on the internet, according to Google. And it's basically, it went from 15% to 100%. Now it's back down to about 25% on that 1 week chart. So it was a massive spike, because everybody was looking for silver. We come up near the top, if not the top, on buy silver. And so we were just getting hammered. And but anyway, it's on the whole, honestly, this is a great thing for the industry. It's a great thing for silver investors. It's wonderful to have the spotlight put on precious metals in a broader way. And it's bringing more people in. It's opening people's eyes to, what gold and silver is all about and why you should own it. And, this is a long-term thing. It's not going to go to the moon immediately. It's not like GameStop. There isn't 140% short interest in silver. There is a short interest, but it's not like that. And it's a bigger market. And it's going to take physical buying, pulling it out of the exchanges and pulling it out of the mines and putting it into the hands of strong hands of individual investors around the world who understand why they want to own these things and why they should own these things. And that's going to take time. And there's a bottleneck in the process of doing that. And so, I'm encouraged, obviously, not just because our industry is doing well, even though it's very stressful, but because we're bringing a lot of new people into the fold on precious metals.
Oh, that's what I love about this. I would tell you this, probably over the past year, especially, I talked to a lot of people about, buying precious metals and the importance of doing it. I remember when we had this something similar to this during the summertime. Remember that the shortage and people were buying up a bunch of silver, and it caused an issue. But my thing was, I remember the first price drop. I had a ton of people panicking, and they were writing me and emailing me and calling me and texting me. So, I did a video just saying to people, look, this is what happens. So the next time we had even a little bit of a dip, then what ended up happening is nobody panicked this time. They were like, oh no, we got it, buy on the dip.
Right.
And I was like, there you guys go. So, I do my best to try to keep them informed about these types of waves and to just be smart about them and expect that if we're going to be going after the market as far as silver is concerned, then it's long term. In addition to that, our goal is to and also pay attention to the fact they're going to do what they can to manipulate the price to keep it down. You've seen them change the margins. We saw that. We also see them forced to short contracts. Jeez, Bernie Sanders, seriously, and the short contracts forced to sell. And but I keep telling people, don't fall for these things. Again, I was just before we came live here, I was talking to Stefan, and I said I caught you on Arcadia Economics, which Marcus. I love watching the show, and so he says to people, not just the news, but let me show you the inventory. You can see the large amounts of inventory being moved over to SLV, and that right there is a huge indicator.
Well, and that's exactly the wrong place for people to be buying. I mean, it's easy because you can do it in your stock account, but that's not where people should be buying precious metals. But that really is where most of this occurred. And there is theoretically physical backing there, and I'm sure that there's some level of physical backing, but they have the ability to bring in using futures and other types of arrangements to bring the metal in, and there's a lot of custodians and sub-custodians and sub-custodians involved, and the whole chain of custody. It's not direct ownership. You're only owning the share of a trust, but it's easy to trade. There were a lot of inflows. Obviously, it's, almost everybody has a stock account. Buying a physical bar or a coin or whatever is something that may seem a little mysterious and unknown to people compared to trading a stock. So I understand why people go there, but at the end of the day, it's a long-term process of people taking physical possession of precious metals, knowing that you have it, removing the counterparty risk. If you're going to store it with a depository that's outside of the financial system, and make sure it's in segregated form and that kind of thing. But
you have that there. Just for those of you who are listening, Stefan over at Money Metals, they have that service available. They have one that's separated.
Vault service,
Vault service.
And,
so,
and when the physical supply itself was running low, and you can see it here where I highlighted what's currently going on with the silver alert is Money Metals has silver rounds, silver coins, and silver bars for immediate purchase, plus a very large supply of low cost vault silver. It's a storage only item. So it's right. and you made that, and you were texting me over the weekend, texted me on Sunday, letting me know to let our viewers know what their options were. So right. They're still going to be able to, even if you're running low on a physical supply, you guys are still going to have the vault silver. And the cool thing about the vault stuff, which we talked about in previous interviews, is you can actually collateralize that and take loans out against your precious metals that are stored in a vault at Money Metals Exchange, correct?
Yeah. If it's in a segregated storage account in Idaho, where our main depository is, then you can actually get a line of credit against it if it's for business purposes. We don't do any kind of borrowing to buy type program. We're not involved in that. This is the idea of like a home equity loan. Like you have a house, you get a line of credit against it. If you have 50 ounces of gold, you can get a line of credit against it through our company. It's not for everybody, but it does fit a need for a lot of people, a lot of real estate investors or people that need a loan for their small business or something like that.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, I mean, there are some lower premium options. Unfortunately, okay, so this is the situation, and obviously you guys have been talking, encouraging people to buy precious metals all the way along the way.
Not paper, precious physical metals.
Physical precious metals, and of course that's number one is make sure you buy physical. Number two is you want to try to look for the low premium options. Now, unfortunately, as opposed to a week ago, before this happened, premiums are now a lot higher again, like they were at certain periods of time last year. Yeah. They're not as high as they were, but they are higher. And unfortunately, that's just a reality that we have to deal with because all the mints are sold out. You're bargaining with everyone else to get supply. There's nobody selling on the secondary market, so it's all new minting supply. And the premiums have risen at the wholesale level, and so the premiums have risen we have to charge more per ounce than we did just a week ago in premium. So that, unfortunately, when everybody wants to buy, is not necessarily the best time to buy. But 2 weeks ago, maybe it was 25% of the demand, as it is today. The same ounce of silver might cost you $2 or $3 more this week as it did last week, even though silver prices are about the same. So that's just an unfortunate reality. But given where we're heading on silver, we think if you haven't bought any precious metals, you really shouldn't be waiting. Shouldn't try to time the market.
Yeah.
If you already have a lot, then maybe buy vault silver, which allows you to buy 1,000-ounce bars or portions of 1,000-ounce bars, or some other low premium option. 100-ounce bars might be a good thing, but or maybe just wait a little bit if you think that prices aren't going to move up very much for a while, because premiums could come back down in the next few weeks.
I always suggest to everybody, especially when you're doing medium to long-term investments, to do something called dollar cost averaging. And something like the savings plan will give you an opportunity to do just that. But dollar cost averaging, you can look it up, but real quickly, you're just basically setting up regular buys on a regular time period, no matter what the price of what you're buying is, and that reduces the volatility of what you're purchasing, and then you just kind of get a medium price. So if you happen to purchase some silver at $14 an ounce, at some at $24 an ounce, you would find that medium to get your dollar cost average.
Chris, can you go back to the website? We can show you we have a monthly savings plan where you literally can set that up on autopilot. So yeah, go under programs on the tab there, IRA programs. Oh, there, that's one place. Yeah. So you can sign up for this monthly savings plan on a specific date per month that you choose. We do a lock on the 1st, the 5th, the 10th. I'm sorry, the 1st, the 10th, the 15th, and the 25th. And so you just set it up, you put it on autopilot, choose the particular products that you want to be purchased automatically each month, set it up with your debit card or your checking account, and you can ship it every month or every 3 months. It's better to do it on every 3 months, so you save on shipping. And just put it on autopilot. It's sort of like taxes. When they went to payroll withholding or payroll deduction of income taxes, the pain that people faced, and I don't know when that was, maybe it was the 40s. It could have been earlier than that, but the bottom line is, when you're not having to write a check and it just happens automatically, and it's kind of pernicious, obviously, in the case of taxes, because then people don't realize how much money they're paying in taxes, because it just happens. They forget about it. They don't even realize they have the money. In fact, they get excited at the end of the year when they get a tax refund, because they think they somehow beat the system. But actually, of course, they were making an interest-free loan to the government, overpaying their taxes throughout the year. But you can take that same principle and use it to your advantage when it comes to investing. And that's what Rice was alluding to, is it's a great way to take the guesswork out of it, the timing of the market. Just put it on autopilot and forget about it, and you won't even notice that it's happening. And then over the course of a year or two, you're going to have a big stack of gold and silver before you know it.
Awesome. I appreciate you explaining it the way. And I was taking a minute while I was screen sharing before you asked me to do that to show off those awesome gold backs, which I'm a huge fan of.
Oh yeah.
I love these things, and they're available on moneymetals.com as well. Just make sure you're using the promo code Pimpy or Rice. Either way, you'll get a free half ounce of silver. Right now, the minimum order for silver is $250, right?
Yeah, for the moment, we just 10,000 orders a day is not something we can fulfill. So we can, but it would just take so much time that it wouldn't be a good experience. So for at least for a couple more days, we have an order minimum of 250.
Well, I had a lot of people again hit me up about transferring to IRAs and 401ks that I sent your way. I was like, good, there's another wave of people, because I tell people, look, at least try to find a way to protect what you have. I know people are scared. Well, there's always a what if, or people who are not familiar and don't have the knowledge of how important precious metals are. but they also are afraid about what's going to happen to the market, the stock market, if it crashes. And I said, look, I get it. If you don't want to switch over the entire amount, that's fine. But dude, like 25%, 30%, if something does happen, at least you're protected by the precious metals. But if nothing happens, you still have both, and you still can spend them however way you want. So a lot of people are asking a lot of questions about that, and I sent them over your direction, my friend.
Great. Yeah, that's a little bit. It takes a couple more steps, but it's not that difficult. You just roll some of your IRA funds into a self-directed IRA account. We work with several trustees. One's called New Direction Trust Company. Another is the Mountain West IRA, and you set up an account with them, fund it by rolling money from another IRA account. And then that's the kind of account you can buy all kinds of alternative type investments. You can buy private equity, you can buy real estate, you can buy gold, physical gold and silver. So it's a good thing for people that want to get outside of just the securities market.
What is that again? What's the name of that again, if you don't mind?
Well, it's called a self-directed IRA, and
there you go. Okay.
Yeah, it's a self-directed IRA, and we have a company we work with called New Direction IRA, or New Direction Trust Company, that is, and Mountain West IRA. We can work with many of the others as well, and you can usually choose Money Metals Depository to store it. One thing about the IRA option, and this is something people need to understand, you can't take physical possession of the precious metals inside of the IRA without it being deemed a distribution by the IRS. So you have to choose a depository to store it in. And so if you want to have physical possession of the metals, and of course we think everybody should at least have some in their physical possession, direct physical possession, then you would really need to look out for, do something outside of an IRA account, just do it with your regular, investments or your cash savings account or whatever.
But again, that's what our recent goal is, to try to remove as much of it off the market as possible. I'm even talking to people overseas. They're saying the same thing is happening over there. Stefan, do you see that? Are you hearing it? Is it just here, or is it worldwide, in your opinion?
I haven't gotten a whole lot of info from outside the country. I know that the news of what's been happening has shown up all over the place. We were quoted in Al Jazeera even somehow,
Nice.
It was a global story over the last few days. Because of what happened with GameStop and then toggling to silver. And of course, silver prices came back down. You mentioned the margin call or the margin requirements. That was kind of tricky. So on Monday, the CFTC increased margin requirements by 18%, which means theoretically it's to protect the exchange from defaults, but the bottom line is people were under financial pressure. And they didn't want it to get out of hand. They forced people, and really that was the short sellers kind of got bailed out by that, and it caused a correction because they had major losses when they woke up on Monday morning. They had major losses, and there were margin calls, but the short sellers tend to be on the larger institutions, so they can meet margin calls. It's the smaller investor that might have more trouble with that. And then the other thing that was interesting I saw was early on Tuesday morning, when the market still hadn't really corrected, JP Morgan downgraded silver.
I saw that.
Isn't that something? Like, wow, middle of the night, everybody's under financial pressure on the short side, and they downgraded the entire silver sector. It was selling from that, and then boom, prices were back down to where they were last week.
So again, instead of allowing the natural flow of things, it's been being interfered with. It's nice to see that what happened with GameStop. You're actually seeing, and I never thought I would see this, but you're seeing celebrities and politicians coming in saying, "Hey, wait, you shouldn't have interfered. That wasn't right what Robinhood and these other platforms did." And again, when people are like, how's this different than dealing with Robinhood? I go, well, Robinhood's stock, they have a platform. I mean, you could get physical silver, physical precious metals, and just take them off the market, whether you're at your local bullion dealer or if you buy them from retailers. That's a big difference. They can, as far as the shares are concerned, you see what Robinhood did, but can the government interfere? But yeah, JP Morgan won't interfere. They will do things to smash the price down. I mean, again, all this, in my opinion, is exposed just how much corruption is involved all the way around. The fact that a hedge fund can make a phone call to some politicians.
People are waking up, man.
That's a great thing.
Stefan, you're politically correct. You like to use this word theoretically, which it's an awesome word, but it's not theoretic. This is a complete pyramid scheme, and they're just trying to shut the little man out. And it's ironic when Robinhood is, on their website says that they're an exchange, a platform for the people. And then they turn around and look out.
Not the people you thought it was. That's what it is.
It wasn't the people. It was those people.
Yeah.
We're not.
But I love this how they said. So you had some of these people. Oh my God, dude! When I just did my metal video this morning. Did you guys hear Jimmy Kimmel? Man, that guy he's like, this whole thing was Reddit and the silver by Russian bots. I was like, really? If it's something's not racist, then it's Russia. And I'm like, they'll do anything and everything to discredit us. A bunch of amateur investors. Oh man, I said, when you see this, you're doing the right thing. When they have to call on Hollywood to help discredit this movement, it's a bunch of Russians, a bunch of white supremacists. I was like, I literally heard him say that. One of the representatives said, it's just a group of white supremacists trying to get money. I was like, what the hell are they saying? Seriously, everything that's positive for people is somehow related to white supremacy, Russia, you know what I mean? Or just Russia bots. And I was like, these people make me sick. But again, I thought that was funny. But watching all these articles come out right away talking about, oh, this is nothing, it's fizzed out. I go, no, it's not fizzed out. You can plan these things not fizzed out, but they'll do anything to try to stop the flow. And I said, including inflating, in my opinion, they started inflating cryptocurrencies to try to keep the excitement looking in that direction and away from silver as the price has gone down. So I was like, don't fall for that, people. Don't fall for it. Just keep doing what you're doing.
So the electronic markets, this is where it's the wrong place to play this, play this silver market. In fact, you shouldn't play the silver market. Silver's money, and it's money that cannot be debased, like Federal Reserve notes and other things. Gold and silver are money. It was known as money and recognized as money and still functions as money for thousands of years. So it's not a short-term trade. It's a hedge against abusive governments. It's a hedge against inflation. It's a money that can't be printed. It doesn't have counterparty risk. But it's easy to put money into the electronic markets for silver, and so that gets a lot of the money when people chase or get involved in this market, and that's where you have this massive volatility. I mean, you have people buying SLV shares. You have people buying call options on SLV shares. You have people in the futures market on margin. And
me and Rice started talking about it when it was first happening. I'm like, no, we'll just get them into the physical. Take the physical metal off the market.
And that's where
we talked about it.
Happen.
Go away.
That's
I got cookies, and that's what they want. They think they're slick. Sorry about that.
A longer term process, and especially when you're pulling it out of the exchanges through the minting process and sending it out to individuals, that isn't something that can be done in a 3-day period. It's something that has been happening on a massive scale over the last year, and it is only accelerating. So I think it's just a matter of time. But the entire futures market, when they re-legalized gold in the United States, which was, most people don't even realize, and I know you guys do, but Bryce, you mentioned this one of our early conversations, but gold was illegal in the U.S. Owning gold was illegal for 40 years in the U.S. Thanks to FDR and
72 or 73.
Can you see that ever happening again? Because I told people, don't be surprised when it comes to silver.
I think in a crisis, I would not put anything past the government. They claim the right to seize any private asset for any reason in a time of emergency. So it is possible. It is, even though it's no longer needed to back the currency like it was then. But what I was going to mention, when they re-legalized gold, because of the inflation of the late 60s and the Vietnam War, and then the whole thing that was happening in the 70s, they re-legalized gold. But then at the same time, they created the futures market for gold. And one of the express purposes of the futures market was to create volatility in the gold price to scare away people from physically owning the asset. And that's kind of the point. There's tremendous volatility, and maybe even in the last few days, people are, who I don't think this will happen, but I think, you know, the goal was, hey, let's get these people all frustrated. They think they're going to squeeze silver. You know, he goes back down. They're going to think it's a bad asset. They're going to go away. We're going to call him a racist on the way out the door.
Yeah.
And
no, seriously, it's that bad. But I warned people about what you're saying right now, Stefan. I told people, you look, don't be surprised if they don't try to scare you. They try to shake speculators. But in your opinion, it doesn't seem as easy to do that anymore. It's like people are much wiser. They don't fall for these tricks anymore. And so now we're starting to see where it's causing a lot of stress, especially on the comics. But I mean, as far as being able to get access to silver, don't get me wrong, you still can. But did I hear Marcus right? Did he say that in the first 6 weeks of this year, we're almost at the halfway mark of what we usually do for a whole year? Is that right?
With respect to what? Physical retail buying? Or,
yes.
I
think he said 270 million is usually the average available for retail, but we're somewhere near the halfway mark already.
I don't think that was in the interview I did with him, but that said, I wouldn't say it's quite half yet, but it's, you know, the first 6 weeks of the year is, you know, at a pace that's way higher than any other month last year. I mean, we're probably looking at close to triple the average month, if not quadruple of last year. And last year was a big year.
I think was it 238%?
Yeah. So, well, looking at our company, it was 300 over 300% increase in our sales. So yeah, I mean, he might have been looking at U.S. Mint statistics or something like that. I'm not sure. Or maybe the SLV. But there is definitely a growing, broader demand, and I think that all the attention in the last week, even though it, you know, didn't pan out yet as any kind of short squeeze, or at least one that you know anybody recognizes as you know massive. There was obviously a move, but I think all this attention is very good on the whole, because it opens people's eyes that, hey, there's this thing, there's these big banks, there's this physical asset out there called silver. It's not just a stock. You can actually take possession of it. You know, maybe they'll start thinking or remembering and hearing that, you know, this is money. This is non-government money.
There's something about taking possession of one of those coins. When I get my silver, I'm telling you, I'm like a fat kid in a candy store. I love it. When I see the coins and you put them in your hand, there's just something about owning precious metals. I mean, I like gold, but when it comes to silver, man, silver, there's just something about it. And I used to tell this story about this lady named Monica with her 3 kids who used to listen to my show. They love that. They love playing with the coins. Yeah, that's what they do. They love the coins. And she's been using that as a way to really motivate her kids to do other things than they're doing them. I mean, they do their chores, they do their homework real quick, just so they can run out and do what they can to collect aluminum cans, find ways to get money to stack up silver. And she's pretty happy about that. So there's more than one benefit to turning on children at a young age about investing and collecting precious metals. And I was happy to be a part of that.
Especially when we're going into a digital age, it gives children the importance of the physical. And maybe this too will start to change. I think we mentioned it in previous interviews, where there was people who would go out with, let's say, $20 or an ounce of silver and offer it to people, or no, a candy bar and an ounce of silver. Right. And people would take the candy bar, not the ounce of silver. And maybe people now will be a little bit more, you know, thinking a little bit more clearly. Like, no, I want that silver. I
see those videos and I go, what are you doing? Yeah, it's like,
is that Mark Dice? Mark Dice does those. He's out on Santa Monica Pier.
Chico Crypto does them. I see Jesse Waters do it, but Chico Crypto he does the crypto for candy. I think it was Mark Dice and Jesse Waters does that. And I think it's funny to watch.
Here's a 10-ounce bar or a Hershey's bar. 10-ounce bar is silver. Here's a Hershey bar. There's a shop right there. You can go ask them what it's worth. You know, which one do you want? I'll take the Hershey bar.
That makes me cry every time. If it was my kids, my kids would be all over that silver. I like, dude, you don't have enough. The candy bar ain't working.
Let me ask you this, Stefan. What happens if, you know, the people start continuing to buy up the physical supply of silver?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Because that's going to eventually have to there's going to have to be some give where the paper manipulated market is not going to be able. It's not going to be able to. It's going to look so manipulated because, if I'm not mistaken, the premiums to buy right now are pretty high.
Yeah, they've shot up in the last week because basically what happened on Thursday and Friday and then over the weekend is everything that was out there, at least readily available, bought from the refineries or from the mints and the wholesalers, was gone.
And then they hit the markets on Sunday night. The markets, like I guess it was the futures markets, and it got the price up to around $30. It hit another.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then it kind of got stomped down. So I know.
They smashed gold down today. I mean, it's down $45.
But how do you think the buying power of people buying the physical silver is going to affect the actual stonk itself?
Well, I mean, my customers alone are buying millions of ounces of silver. So, I mean, the annual production of silver is about 800 million ounces, the new mine supply. There's already a bit of a supply deficit, in terms of the industrial and coin demand versus the new mining supply and the recycling. So, a few 100 million ounces over the course of the next few weeks, or the next 6 months, or, I mean, it will have an impact. It'll have an
effect.
Yeah. I mean, the tricky part is, again, the bottleneck around mining, or around minting. And the U.S. Mint, of course, is behind and can't keep up, and they announced, going on allocation and way behind what they need to be able to do. Private mints are working full tilt. We're ordering hundreds of thousands of ounces for minting with our various mint relationships, over the last week. Stuff's in process, stuff's on its way. But there's a physical limit. Now, if you do the 1,000-ounce bars, if you have an efficient mechanism for pulling the 1,000-ounce bars out, those are still relatively plentiful. I mean, we ran into some order limits. One place we were told 50,000 ounces is all we can sell you right now, in 1,000-ounce bars. But we were able to round up. Some of it's logistics, and where it is and all that kind of stuff. But
I heard somebody had made a suggestion, Stefan, on this, and that is the miners are kind of hip to what's going on, and they are pulling back on their releasing of their supplies to help assist in this area. So how does that, so that we can explain it to the public, how, if this is true, and the miners say, well, look, we want to take part in this, so we're going to pull back on the amount of silver we release. Can you explain to people how that benefits, people who are holding on to
absolutely great? That's a great question. Well, miners have been they've been gotten the short end of the stick over the last 20, 30 years because of this manipulation. If prices are systemically too low, they're the ones that are paying the biggest price because it's hard for them to mine at a profit. They've consumed a lot of capital. Many have gone out of business. In the last year, they finally kind of moved, had a reprieve from the pain they've been feeling the last few years. Or the prices have come up. They're starting to make a profit again. Keith Neumeyer is actually a good example. He's one of the few, and we've had him on our podcast a few times over the years for Money Metals. And Keith Neumeyer is the CEO of First Majestic, and which is one of the largest primary silver miners in the world. And they actually physically held back production for a period of time. Now, and put it on their balance sheet as an asset. Why put cash if you don't need the cash desperately for expanding your mine or whatever? Why not hold some of your cash in silver and just hold it on your balance sheet and sell it when prices reach a more realistic level?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering.
And he was doing that quite a bit when silver was in the $15 range. He was holding back a lot of production. I'm not sure he is at the moment. But I think it's a great strategy. If I were a shareholder, I am a shareholder of mining companies, including First Majestic. I would look for the companies that understand what they produce. I'll give you an example I'll mention the name of the company, Hecla. I've had some interactions with them. They're in the same state as our business. They don't think precious metals is money.
What? If I'm not mistaken, I think the only legal thing considered money is both silver and gold. Isn't that correct?
It's the only actual money that I know of historically that's proven itself to be money, not currency.
Well, it's also mentioned in the U.S. Constitution. It's the money of the states. Article 1, Section 10. States shall not make anything but anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debt.
Something happened along the way.
All of our money is supposed to be backed also by gold and silver as well, which we're not doing that either. So it doesn't seem like our government likes to listen to their own rules.
Right.
So I got a question for you. We talk about silver all the time, but let me ask you a question about gold. So let's say that, right now they're obviously going to do whatever it takes to manipulate the price to get it back down on silver, try to discourage people from doing what we're doing. And I keep encouraging people, buy as much of it as possible. Don't fall for this. Keep moving forward. So here's my question to you. So if this frenzy is happening and we're seeing the stress happen with silver, how does that affect gold?
Well, it is affecting gold as a knock-on effect. We're definitely seeing more demand for gold as well. But what's interesting is actually over the last few months, gold has been what people have favored in terms of the retail buying, activity. We've sold a lot more gold in the last year than silver. Which wasn't the case 5 or 10 years ago. We used to sell more silver than gold.
So I watched the ratio. That's where I determine, I'm like, well, let me see what the ratio is. During the summer, I think in July it was, remember, it was ridiculous. It's like 114 ounces to one. I was like, what the hell is this? It's like, this is crazy,
That was the biggest buying opportunity, in recorded history for silver versus gold. No question about it. I think the other thing is that typically new customers that come into the market to buy precious metals, except in this most recent scenario where it was focused on silver, typically new customers will favor gold. Silver's sort of like, once you become an investor in precious metals and then you start looking more closely at everything about it, then you discover, wait a minute, silver's undervalued. Wait a minute, silver's the only, historically been the most circulating type of precious metals money. And you see that opportunity, and people start switching more to silver after they've already gotten in the market. So over the last year, I think the fact that we've seen more gold is an indication of a lot of new investors coming in, and then they sort of turn their focus to silver. I
do my best to introduce precious metals to a lot of new people, and then also do what I can to educate them as much as possible, and making sure that, hopefully the knowledge that I'm sharing with them helps them in their decision making. But I'm surprised at how many people never even had any types of savings put aside or anything. And they're like, look, until I heard your channel, I had no savings. Now I have precious metals. And I'm like, no, that makes me feel good. That's the real joy of doing what I do, is knowing that, these types of things are taking place because, somebody watched my video. Don't get me wrong, there's other reasons to be happy about what I do, but knowing that people are being helped, in my opinion, is the biggest joy of it all.
Well, you've done a great job, both of you, talking about the metals and explaining the reasons and holding hand. People, it honestly, it can get a little bit. First of all, it's unfamiliar, at first to buy precious metals, and then you sometimes see the volatility or what you perceive as volatility. It may not be volatility in the Federal Reserve note. And you don't see that volatility because we that's our reference point. But silver in particular can be volatile. And so sometimes that can get, people can lose some sleep over it. And that's another reason actually, Rice, to do the dollar cost averaging is just take the guesswork out of it. There's always going to be some psychological, you're going to talk yourself out of it for whatever reason. I want to wait till it drops, or I'm afraid it's, just take, especially if you're susceptible to that, but you need to do it. And we all are to some extent, but it's a great way to just add some discipline to your investing and just do it on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
You set it and forget it.
That's where that term comes, buy on a dip. That comes from, you cost average, you buy it when it's slower, and over time, the average cost is much lower than that one time you got zinged. Because some of the people got in when silver was around $29. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, but buy it when it's lower. The cost average is much better.
Really, real quick, I know that your time is kind of limited. I was thinking about this while we were talking, and I did a screen share. I want to share it again. On this U.S. debt clock, on the right-hand side where it gives the dollar to silver ratio now, and then in 1913, and then it gives $1 to gold. How do you explain that pricing mechanism that they got there, where it basically is saying that the dollar to silver ratio is $4,798 per ounce, where it used to be $266?
Yeah, I guess that is an indication of the money supply, and I'm not sure if that's like the printed, if that's M1 money or if that's which one they're referencing. But
this is dollar to silver, and then there's a paper to silver. So I don't know if.
Well, okay, so the paper to silver has to do with leverage in the exchanges, I believe.
And it's 185.69 to 1.
Yeah, so that's the. I believe that's what that is. Either that or it's all paper that includes like debt paper. But I think that's the leverage in the futures exchange, meaning how many ounces back, how many paper ounces there are for every physical ounce. Okay. Which is what. Yeah, it's massive, and it's even those numbers look like those particular numbers. But I guess the dollar to silver ratio is, they're looking at 1913 when it was connected, and so the dollar, silver actually is what a dollar is defined historically in terms of a certain number of ounces or grains of silver, and our money was made out of that amount. Mm-hmm. So the silver dollar was 0.77 troy ounces of silver. So the price of ounce of silver was like 121 per ounce, and that's probably what that's said. That was historically what defined a dollar.
I remember that. Oh, sorry about that.
So our money had that amount of content in it because it literally was equivalent to $1. That amount of silver was $1. And now they just print it. And so I guess that ratio is saying, okay, for all the money that's printed versus all the silver that's above ground, what's the ratio now? And it's, 400 times higher or something like that, which is one way of saying, hey, silver's way undervalued. It's way undervalued. It doesn't have to go back to that ratio, but it shows you what's happening, with the expansion of credit and paper versus the real assets that underpins all of this.
Well, if we went back to the gold standard, where do you think they would have to set? The gold and silver standard. Where do you think they would have to set gold and silver in order to cover what we have on our balance sheets?
Well, I think the U.S. government has, I think, roughly $1 trillion of gold at current market value, but the debt is what, 30 trillion? Mm-hmm. So that's one way of looking at it. In order to create solvency on our balance sheet, obviously the government owns real estate and other things too, but I think many multiples, 10, 20, 30 times would probably be an appropriate sort of way of if you wanted to relink it. And that's a longer discussion, but some of the historical examples of going off the gold standard and then going back onto the gold standard, and it's actually one of the reasons the gold standard has gotten a bad rap, is because when they did it, like around the Civil War, they went off the gold standard. They started printing the greenback, and they had it was $20 per ounce, roughly, and then they inflated. And then after the Civil War was over, they said, okay, let's go back to the gold standard. So they had massive higher amounts of paper money, and then they tried to relink it back at the same $20 level. And then it caused a deflation. Basically, everybody's like, I'm saving, I'm not spending, I'm going to hold gold because I can get it for $20 an ounce. So what really, to go back on a gold standard, you have to massively revalue gold at a much higher level so that it can not cause distortions. And
you want to take a crack at what you think that might be, and just understand that it's a guesstimation?
50,000 maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's one number I hear commonly. And then hopefully the gold to silver ratio goes back to normal. What are we talking, 15 to 1? I'll 16, take it.
Yeah. 16 to 1, right. So that means that silver would go up. If that's a 25-fold increase in gold, and silver is, and the ratio goes to 16 and it's currently 72, then that's 100 times increase in silver price.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
up in the thousands. I like that.
Yeah, 25.
If you take it to its normal ratio, that puts it around a $4,000 an ounce, level next to the 50,000. Is that about right? Yeah.
Tom says at $300 an ounce of silver, he'll be happy. So imagine if it got up to $2,500, Tom. How happy would you be then?
I mean,
oh my goodness! If it got to $100 an ounce, I'd be a little happy. No.
Yeah.
Well, man, this has been a great
I don't know. That's the other thing. I don't know what kind of world that will be. You know, when that happens, that could be
Mad Max, possibly.
Mad
Yeah.
Max.
I mean, that's the thing that people need to take into account. Everything that we're talking about. When you're seeing an increase of the price of silver and gold going to the prices that we're talking about, then it means that fiat money, the US dollars specifically, are dead or are on the point of like just about to die. So, I mean, it's not, right. And that means that things that are happening in the world are not going to be that great. And that's what I mean by a Mad Max type world, not to give people like fear or anything like that, but just that's reality.
Yeah, and it will benefit debtors too, because, you know, debtors in dollars, as long as you don't owe gold or owe silver, in which case it won't. But if you owe dollars, Federal Reserve no dollars, and there's a massive inflation like that, and that's why, you know, that's kind of why I feel it's just, I know people are hesitant about debt, and I'm not trying to promote debt, but when you're aligning yourself with the forces, the economic forces that exist, you know, you're aligning yourself with the U.S. government, which is a massive debtor. When you have debt, especially if it's to, you know, buy a piece of income producing real estate or something like that, I mean, it's been a pretty good play for an inflationary world that we've been in. Obviously, you got to be careful about debt, but inflation benefits debtors, and that's why the government wants inflation, because they're the biggest debtor of everyone.
The biggest debtor.
That's an understatement.
A little bit. And they seem to be getting ready to add a whole bunch more. I'm watching the Kitco live movement on silver right now where the price is. Just watching it move. It's at 26.32. Doesn't match the Yahoo one, but.
Stefan, again, man, we know that you got to get off here in the next 5 minutes. So I guess before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to add to the conversation before we end this beautiful live stream, which you appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thanks to both of you guys for the customers and that you send our way. We take that very seriously. It's a tremendous, it's an obligation and it's a trust business. We absolutely, you know, are committed to making sure that they have the best customer service experience, that we deliver quickly, that our pricing is fair. We just got named by Investopedia as the best online gold dealer. Nice. In a recent thing they just did, which kind of came out of the blue, and we were at the top of the list. So we were really, really honored for that. But I would say, you know, as far as this scenario goes, don't get too caught up in the ups and downs of the price movement, and, you know, don't get too discouraged by the manipulation and JP Morgan, you know, downgrading silver in the middle of the night when they're trying to help people who are short that are probably their clients or themselves. Whatever the reasons, but, you know, it's kind of, the timing is remarkable. Don't get discouraged by this. It's a long-term thing. The forces of you know, the economic forces are behind what we're doing, which is investing in real assets, diversifying away from the Federal Reserve System to an extent, and just keep on that track. Don't lose sleep over it. Don't buy more than you're comfortable with. Yeah. I like the idea of the short, you know, the smaller purchases over time on a disciplined basis. Don't go all in on anything, including gold and silver. So, you know, just relax. And, you know, if you're doing something that's causing you stress, then you need to, you know, whatever it is, you need to address that. And, you know, for me, initially, I was stressed about not having precious metals. But then there's a point where some people might get too much, and that causes some stress, and that's also something you should reconsider.
Boy, howdy! I'd like to get to that point. No, just kidding.
Well, you're not at that point. I mean, you're very comfortable with, you know, why you're doing it, and you know, and yes. you feel you know what's going to happen, and I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I would like to. I want people to really wake up to this. It's important because, you know, I listening to this guy give a speech one time. I can't remember his name. It's bothering me, but he was saying to people, we are at this point. We're about to see the largest transformation of wealth, and it has to do with precious metals. He said it's unfortunate, but only like 1 out of every 1,000 people will be informed and ready to take advantage of this. I thought, man,
Right.
that's really sad. I would try to inform as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I've done. I've done what I can to try to get more and more people in there because it's important. They might not appreciate it now, but they will later on. That's for sure.
Well, they are still very much on the cutting edge. I mean, it's still a very rare person that you run across. Maybe not so much in your own personal circles because they know you, but you know, you move out 1 or 2 steps away from your circle of friends and contacts, and just about nobody has precious metals on their radar, even now. I mean, the last few days that's changed a little bit, but I mean, 1 in 100 at best will have any physical gold or silver. And so that goes to 2 in 100 or 4 in 100. That's massive. It's a massive increase. And that will not be sustained at current prices if that were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, even talking to my own family, trying to encourage them to, even my own kids. I got 2 kids that will, the rest won't. I'm like, well, at least 2 of them, you know.
You can only do so much. You can only do so much. Right. I mean, like Stefan, like I don't have, your audience is more, Pimpy, your audience is more into precious metals. My audience tends to be more into crypto. And I'm not really getting the orders that I was thinking that was going to happen. And Stefan was asking, and it's just one of those things where some people just don't realize the importance of owning precious metals and the power of wealth preservation. And because of inflation, you know, if you watch any of the videos that me and Pimpy talk about, and then with the idea of all this money printing, the fact that we printed up 20% of our money last year, I mean, we haven't even felt the pain from that. The hyperinflation could kick in, and this could get really, really bad. And having things like, I love crypto, but crypto is not a proven safe haven asset. Whereas gold and silver and other precious metals have proven themselves over time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it may not be as exciting as cryptos, and maybe that's part of it. But I mean, cryptos are exciting to watch what happens.
They are.
And it's a genuine innovation that's going on there, and it's here to stay, and there's real value there. But it is different. It is different.
You guys also, for people who don't know, you guys do accept cryptocurrencies for orders as well. Yep. So I'll show back on the home screen here at the top, we accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And they were actually, I think, the first precious metals dealer to do that. And it's been like 2013, 2014, right?
2013 probably. We started with Coinbase, and then I think and we have BitPay, but in 2015 we started accepting many cryptos directly. We don't even use, you can still use like BitPay, but we actually receive them in kind, and we have some on our balance sheet at all times of each of the coins. And
I mentioned that because a lot of people I know have, and I saw it in the chat too, have been taking some profits from cryptocurrency since there's been some highs, and been investing into some precious metals. But you're going through a process of selling, and then you're going through a process of buying. So where you can just take your cryptocurrencies and just go direct. Direct, and not have to worry about any of the extra transfer fees, transaction fees.
I got to bring that up again. That's a good point. I brought that up a while back, but I got to do it again.
Well, and we also will, if somebody wants, we're a dealer, so we buy and we sell precious metals. So if somebody wanted to sell us, $50,000 of gold eagles and get paid in Ethereum directly, we could do that.
Oh, Ethereum, yes. Good
Whichever one, but I mean.
No, Ethereum, that's the right one.
I didn't realize I have some Ethereum. It's done pretty well lately.
Yeah. Yes, it has. It's done very well.
All-time highs. We're going to keep this conversation going. I know you have other commitments, Stefan. So, Pimpy, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to leave people with before we wrap this video up?
Look, I like this movement. It does bring awareness, and I am one of these people that say, look, if we can do anything that can cause awareness or bring stress to the market in order to bring up its real value, then by all means, I'm behind it. I tell everybody, and there's people that watch my channel from all around the world, so we're constantly talking. I'm like, look, you got to take the physical possession. You have to take it off the market. They're going to do anything and everything they can to stop this. They're going to lie, Russians, white supremacists, whatever it is. They're going to try to do what they can, tell you it's ended. Just keep buying it. If you got the discretionary funds, do so. If you got more, then do more. You know, encourage family members, buy 1, buy 2 ounces, whatever it takes. The more you do this, the more we remove off the market, the more stress I think it's going to put on the comics, and they're going to have to start paying a higher price. I mean, maybe my approach is wrong, but that seems about the right approach to me.
Well, we're going to have to revisit this, and Stefan, we'll stay in touch. I mean, obviously we talk quite often, but if there's any reason to bring you back on really soon, we're definitely going to have to keep that invitation open for you.
There's one thing. Let's talk soon on the sound money stuff.
Okay.
We have about 15 bills going through the state legislatures right now. And I'd love to talk about those, maybe a short show dedicated just to talking about all the legislative initiatives that we're involved with at the federal and state level.
Okay.
Right now.
I'll email you and we can set it up for next week.
Okay.
We can record it or we can do it live, but I'll email you about it. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in. Again, this is going to be on both of our YouTube channels. Pimpy's got 2, Pimpy's Investment Chat and Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes, and my channel, Rice TV X. So depending on where you're watching this at, make sure you are subscribed to both channels. Smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with our videos as they come out. And be sure to follow us on LBRY and Odyssey, where we have backups of our videos. Take advantage of that free ½ ounce of silver. All you need to do is go to moneymetals.com, be a first-time buyer, purchase $100 or more, use the promo code either Rice or Pimpy. You get a free ½ ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel as well. And as always, we encourage you to be the change by practicing change. I never said we. I usually say me, but yeah. Be the change by practicing change.